On the morning of October 18, the armed forces of Ukraine shot down a Russian Su-25 attack aircraft in the Kherson region. Another enemy Su-34 fighter bomber with full ammunition fell in the Rostov region. Yuri Ignat, a representative of the Air Force Command, said this on the air of the United News telethon, Ukrinform reports. The Air Command of the South literally just reported that Su-25 rachists were shot down in the Kherson region. Also during the night, 5 drones were shot down and, as it is now reported, the 6th Shahid drone in the south of the country. Another Shahid was shot down by the Vostok Air Command, Ignat said. He also added that there is information about the shooting down of 4 Russian-caliber cruise missiles. According to Ignat, in addition to the Su-25 shot down by our aircraft, the Russians lost another Su-34 last night. The Russians posted a video of how a Russian Su-34 plane crashed in the Rostov region, the pilots ejected. This plane with full ammunition flew to launch missiles in Ukraine. That is, with their plane, the Russians destroyed their residential building, and there are dead, Ignat emphasized. As Ukrinform reported, from February 24 to October 18, the armed forces of Ukraine destroyed about 65,850 Russian invaders, which is 530 more than the day before. The head of the Kharkiv Regional Military Administration, Oleg Senegyubov, announced explosions in the regional center. According to Ukrinform, Senegyubov said this in Telegram. Attention, residents of Kharkov and the region, the Russian invaders are striking. Stay in cover, he said. Also, the mayor of the city, Igor Terekov, announced the shelling of Kharkov on Telegram. Kharkov is under fire. In 5 minutes 2 series of explosions thundered in the city. According to preliminary information, the territory of one of the industrial enterprises of the city was shelled, he said. As Ukrinform reported, in the Kharkiv region, about 30% of educational institutions were damaged as a result of Russian shelling, and partial repairs began in them. Russia, due to failures on the battlefield, is attacking the civilian infrastructure of Ukraine in order to cause widespread damage to the energy distribution network. According to Ukrinform, this is stated in a brief summary of British military intelligence published on Tuesday by the British Ministry of Defence on Twitter. Since October 10, Russia has maintained an increased pace of long-range strikes against targets throughout Ukraine. They were carried out with cruise missiles, surface-to-surface air defense missiles and Shahid-136 provided by Iran for a unilateral strike by unmanned aerial vehicles. It is likely that the main goal of this strike campaign is to cause massive damage to the energy distribution network of Ukraine. As Russia has been failing on the battlefield since August, it has likely become more willing to target civilian infrastructure in addition to Ukrainian military installations. As Ukrinform reported, on Monday, the Russian Federation launched 9 missile and 39 air strikes on Ukraine. According to the Armed Forces of Ukraine, the Russian Federation used cruise, aviation and anti-aircraft guided missiles to deliver strikes. In addition, Russia continues to use Iranian-made Shahid-136 unmanned aerial vehicles. Russian troops attacked an energy supply facility in Zhytomyr. Deputy head of the office of the President Kyrylo Tymoshenko announced this on Telegram, Ukrinform reports. Zhytomyr. Preliminary 2 arrivals at the power supply facility. The state emergency service is working, he stressed. As Ukrinform reported, on the morning of October 18, Russian troops attacked an energy infrastructure facility in the Dnieper. The Russians abducted 2 employees of the Zaporizhzhia NPP, their whereabouts are unknown. According to Ukrinform, this was reported by Neg Energodom in Telegram. Yesterday, October 17, Russian nuclear terrorists detained and took away in an unknown direction the head of the Information Technology Service of the Zaporizhzhia NPP, Oleg Kostyukov, and the assistant to the general director of the plant, Oleg Oshiko, the report says. Their whereabouts and condition are unknown. Energodom calls on IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi and the entire world community to make every effort and use all possible measures to free ZNPP workers from the captivity of Russian terrorists and facilitate their return to duty. As reported, Zaporizhzhia NPP, the largest nuclear power plant in Europe, has been seized by the Russian military since March 4. Since that time, the occupiers have been placing military equipment and ammunition at the station site, as well as shelling the surrounding area. The Russians are also shelling the station itself, destroying power lines, causing the station's external power to go out and blaming the APU for it. In addition, the occupiers kidnap and torture ZNPP workers. In particular, on October 10 the Russians abducted Zaporozhye NPP Deputy General Director Valery Martinyuk, and on September 30, Zaporozhye NPP General Director Igor Murashov. The latter was released from captivity on October 3. At night, the enemy launched an airstrike on Zaporozhye using kamikaze drones. Oleksandr Starik, the head of the Zaporizhia OVA, wrote about this on Telegram, Ukrinform reports. Tonight, the enemy again attacked the regional center. An airstrike was carried out using a Shahid UAV. As a result of the attack, a fire broke out at an infrastructure facility, he wrote. According to him, one rocket hit a warehouse in one of the districts of Zaporozhye. In both cases, there were no casualties. Explosions are heard in Brovary, air defense is working. Brovary Mayor Igor Sapazko announced this on his Telegram channel, Ukrinform reports. Explosions are heard in Brovary. Air defense works, Sapazko wrote. He also urged residents to remain calm. As reported, earlier on October 18, the head of the Kyiv Regional Military Administration, Alexei Kuleba, said that yesterday a number of enemy targets were shot down in the Kyiv region, but Russian troops continue to advance on the Kyiv region. From February 24 to October 18, the armed forces of Ukraine eliminated about 65,850 Russian invaders, which is 530 more than the day before. According to Ukrinform, the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine announced this on Facebook. Also, to date, Ukrainian defenders have destroyed 2,548, plus 11, tanks, 5,219, plus 14, armored combat vehicles, 1,622, plus 23, artillery systems, 372, plus 6, multiple launch rocket systems, 188, plus 1, air defense systems. Systems 268, plus 0, aircraft, 242, plus 0, helicopters, 1276, plus 35, tactical UAVs, 318, plus 2, cruise missiles, 16, plus 0, ships/boats, 3,985, plus 16, vehicles and tanks trucks and 144, plus 1, special vehicles. Iranian instructors help Russian invaders launch kamikaze drones from Crimean training grounds. According to Ukrinform, the National Resistance Center under the Special Operations Forces of the Armed Forces of Ukraine announced this on Facebook. The Iranians are helping to launch Shahid 136 kamikaze drones from Crimea. In particular, the instructors are located at the Chauda training ground, the Kirovskoy military airfield and in the area of Cape Tarkhanket, the message says. According to the Ukrainian underground, up to 20 instructors from Iran were also seen on the territory of the temporarily occupied Kherson region. Drones are transported by Kamaz or Ural trucks. Also, civil transport, trucks for transporting sea containers can be used for this. As Ukrinform reported, on the morning of October 17, 43 drones attacked Ukraine, 37 of which were destroyed by the Air Force. On the morning of October 18, the Russians again fired at 2 thermal power plants belonging to DTEK Enero. As a result of the shelling, 1 person was killed and 6 were injured. According to Ukrinform, this was reported by DTEK. On October 18, Russia continued inflicting massive terrorist strikes on civilian and energy infrastructure facilities. In the morning, 2 energy enterprises of DTEK Energy were repeatedly shelled, the report says. It is noted that 7 people were injured. They were promptly called an ambulance, but one of the wounded died on the way to the hospital. It is reported that as a result of the shelling, power equipment was seriously damaged. Employees of enterprises will be able to start work to eliminate the consequences and resume work after the alarm is cancelled. As reported, on the morning of October 17, the Russians launched another series of attacks on the energy infrastructure of Ukraine. The massive attack continued on the morning of Tuesday, October 18. In particular, power facilities in Zhytomyr, Dnipro and Kiev were damaged. As a result of the shelling on October 17, one of the thermal power plants of DTEK Energy was damaged. During the missile strikes on Kharkov, which Russian troops inflicted in the morning from the territory of Belgorod, no one was injured. Oleg Senegyubov, chairman of the Kharkiv Regional Military Administration, announced this on Telegram, Ukrinform reports. Today at about 8:30 a.m., the enemy fired 8 missiles at Kharkov from the territory of Russian Belgorod. According to preliminary data, there are no casualties. The information is being specified, the relevant services are checking, in particular, in Novobovarsky, Osnoviansky and Slobodsky districts, the message says. In addition, according to the OVA, over the past day, Russian invaders from tanks, mortars, cannon and rocket artillery fired at the settlements of the Kupiansky, Kharkov and Chugovsky districts located near the confrontation line and the border with the Russian Federation. According to the Regional Center for Emergency Medical Assistance, a 64-year-old man was hospitalized with wounds in the Kupiansky district during the day. Also yesterday, in Kupiansky and Chugovsky districts, 2 men, 74 and 67 years old, who had been injured earlier, turned to doctors. Demoning continues in the area. During the day, the pyrotechnic units of the State Emergency Service neutralized 1,428 explosive objects. Fighting continues on the collision line. The enemy tried to go on the offensive near the village of Berestovo, Kupiansky district, but suffered losses and retreated, Senegyubov said. As reported, in Kharkov at 8:20 on October 18, 3 explosions thundered, a few minutes later another series of explosions. According to Kharkiv Mayor Igor Terekov, the enemy was aiming at the area of one of the industrial enterprises. Sirens sound in the city. After the air raid, there is a threat of artillery fire. As a result of rocket attacks on Zhytomyr, inflicted by the Russians on energy infrastructure facilities, 2 people were injured. Zhytomyr Mayor Sergei Sukhomlin announced this on the air of the United News Telethon, an Ukrinform correspondent reports. Indeed, today there were 3 flights to Zhytomyr, to the energy infrastructure. The city was without electricity for almost an hour. Gradually, our emergency teams, our power engineers are doing everything possible to connect the city. And some areas are already connected. Unfortunately, we have 2 wounded, one of them is hospitalized, Sukhomlin said. He noted that an assessment of the destruction and consequences of missile strikes is being carried out. As reported, in the morning, Russian troops launched a missile attack on Zhytomyr, after which the city lost electricity and water supply. Medical institutions operate on backup power. The Russian command set a combat mission to capture the city of Bakhmut in the Donetsk region by the end of October. This was stated by Deputy Defense Minister Anna Maliar in an interview with the We Are Ukraine media platform, Ukrinform reports. The Russians have set a deadline for their troops, for the 5th time since the start of a full-scale invasion, when they must completely withdraw to the borders of the Donetsk region, and now they have a plan that they must fully occupy Bakhmut by the end of this month, Maliar said. Now the enemy, according to her, is in the vicinity of the city, and the armed forces of Ukraine are using all their forces to prevent the enemy from moving forward. She added that in general the situation in the east is different. There are areas where the armed forces of Ukraine are advancing, but the epicenter of fierce fighting is now in Bakhmut. Referring to the situation in the south of the country, Maliar noted that there is a gradual advancement of the armed forces of Ukraine. There is also evidence of the demoralization of the personnel of the Russian troops in the south. Firstly, they are losing temporarily occupied territories. Most of all, they were demoralized by the losses in the Kharkiv region. In addition, they really have problems with personnel, and what we are now witnessing is the mobilization announced by them, what kind of people they use, unprepared, with long terms of imprisonment. For example, military companies are involved. About the fact that they are morally blown away, said Maliar. As Ukrinform reported, according to the intelligence of the British Ministry of Defence, the offensive operation of the Russian Federation in the Bakhmut district of the Donetsk region was not successful. Its progress is very slow.